This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
Namaskar. Today is the 126th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. There are many questions about his departure from the world scene after 1945. A lot of research has been done, and a lot of new facts are out. But still, many myths about Netaji are still floating around everywhere. As you know, myth has to do with Greek word myth, has to do with mithya, that means false. Mythology, for that matter, is false stories or imaginary stories. But in this case, we'll pick up few myths that are still around, even though many of them are proven wrong already. The first one, very first one, is that on August 1945, Netaji died in a plane crash near the Taihoku airport, and he died in a military hospital there. This is the biggest myth about Netaji's life. The truth is that that plane crash never happened. Official documents from the Taiwanese government and other reports prove that there was no plane crash not only on that day but not even that year. So those who are still floating this, believing in this plane crash, has either some agenda or completely ignorant to facts. Second one, second myth is that Netaji married to Emil Schenkel, and they had a daughter called Anita Bose Puff, who's alive and visits India frequently. The fact is that there is no proof of a marriage with Netaji and Emil, and it appears from various sources. I'm not 100% clear, but I can say this, that the new information that has been coming out recently tells us that it was a fake story planted by some people with vested interest. So the fact is that Netaji never got married, not to even Emily, and the daughter Anita Bose um, is a question mark. Who is she? Next myth, or rather propaganda mostly by the communists about Netaji, and even some Congress leaders, that Netaji was a fascist. Why? Because Netaji met Hitler, and later on he went to Japan, and they were part of the group during the World War II, and they were all supposed to be fascist people. And since Netaji met them, um, he was shown in that light that he was also a fascist, especially some communist leaders, and even America. Till today, many people believe that he was part of the fascist movement there. Having said that, we know the facts today, that Netaji went out to get help from anyone. Basically, enemy's enemy is my friend. And with that theory, he went out and tried to get help from any sources, whether it's Hitler or Germany or Mussolini or Japan. And at the end of the day, the truth is he was neither a communist nor a fascist or any of those names. He was a true Sanatani Bharatiya. Sanatani Bharatiya. You understand what it means. The other myth, the fourth one I have in my list, is that uh, first Prime Minister of India was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. You know, history books don't give much credit to the contributions of great leaders who were not part of the Indian National Congress. So major events leading to India's independence from the British tyranny were kept hidden for a long time. The truth is that on 21st October 1943 at the Cathay Theatre in Singapore, Netaji proclaimed the establishment of the Arzi Hukumat-e-Azad Hind, that means the provincial government of free India. And 3 days later, on October 24th, he declared war on the British Empire and the USA also. A lot of people don't know. The Azad Hind government under Netaji had started its own bank, civil code, and stamps. Now, but some contemptuous people won't accept it to insult the memories of Netaji. They would give this credit to a provincial government in exile that was established in Kabul on December 1st in 1915. Yes, there was a provincial government in exile was formed, but what was the ultimate game and destiny of this formation? Um, the It was a very short-lived situation that German Empire, Austria, the Tsarist Russia, Kingdom of Bulgaria, and these are the forces. They kind of supported it. It was a very small effort for verbal support, but more importantly, it was supported by the Ottoman Empire. And who was Ottoman Empire? Basically, it was Afghan Emirate of Afghanistan or Emirate of Kabul, um, and they're the one who were supporting it. Apart from those other countries, not really governments, but some representatives of these countries. And yes, the declared president was a great freedom fighter in those days, Raja Mahendra Pratap Singh, and many others were part of that. And also our Raman Pillai was also part of that. But you look at the other names who were part of the government, it will give you some hint. Um, the prime prime minister was Maulana Barkatullah, and if you look at his background, he was an Islamist. Yes, he just like Maulana Azad joined in the freedom movement, but he was also an Islamist. Then Home Minister of that board was Devbandi Maulavi Udaybullah Sindhi, and then War Minister was Devbandi Maulavi Bashir. So this was an alliance to basically bring back and establish a pan-Islamic rule in India, and perhaps Gandhiji's Khilafat idea was probably stemmed from that because he also joined the Indian Foreign League at that time, along with some others. So, um, um, the people, and that did not last for long, only few months, and it was over, because it didn't get much support. Yes, we should give credit to the right people, but what was the purpose of that, and why are we bringing it up? And while Netaji actually formally not only formed a government but also declared war on Britain and other nations who were against this, and we got result out of that. And as you know, um, on December 30th, 1943, Netaji and Azad Hind Fauj hoisted the flag, Indian flag, in Port Blair, in Andaman Islands. So that was December 30, 1943. Good 4 years before the formal transfer of power. On April 14, 1944, there was another significant history in Manipur. Um, in Moirang, Azad Hind Fauj army commanders also declared independence, and this was the mainland. Earlier one was in Andaman, and this is mainland India, uh, and this was the true declaration of independence at that time. Myth number five: India got freedom of due to the Satyagraha of Congress Party and Gandhiji. Well, as you know, after 1942 Quit India movement, there's no major movement to gain independence. Um, Gandhiji suddenly withdrew the 1942 Quit India movement for many reasons, and most people were shocked. But then all of a sudden, in 1947, India gets freedom. For what are the reasons? In the meantime, I should mention that um, the people, even mostly the communists, are still propagating this theory that Netaji had great enmity with Veer Savarkar. Um, at that time, during the early period of Netaji's involvement in Congress, of course, he did criticize both Hindu Mahasabha and Shama Prasad Mukherjee because of the compulsion and reason for those days. But the part of the history that is hidden from us, that what happened in the past, the part of the history that is hidden from us, that on June 22nd, 1940, Netaji and Veer Savarkar had a 3 hour long meeting. What did they talk about for 3 hours? So we know now, there's no manuscript or anything of that discussion, but we know now that it was about Netaji going out of country and join the Indian National Army, which was already formed in Japan by Raspberry Bose and others. And it was a game plan. As you know, Veer Savarkar was always saying, telling Indian people, join the Indian Army, join the Indian Army. And whenever there's a need, you'll turn your gun towards your commanders, British commanders. So, so the recruitment process in Indian Army, then the prisoner of wars of British Indian Army, and also other people who joined INA, the Azad Hind Fauj, they were all fighting a battle, although it was small scale compared to the World War II main battle, main war. But INA was making very good progress to hit hard the places, the British Indian land that was occupied by them from the east side, and that went on for quite some time. Um, the fact that is also hidden that Raj Bihari Bose was the head of Hindu Mahasabha in Japan, as like Veer Savarkar. You know, this Hindu Mahasabha was formed by many famous people, including Madan Mohan Malavaji, and that connection. So Netaji eventually met with Savarkar, and with a game plan between Savarkar and Rashbihari Bose, the alliance was created, and Netaji goes to places to pick up these British Indian Army soldiers, and you know, make this INA a formidable force. And then, as I said, after 1942, there's not much going on in terms of any freedom movement. In On 18th February 1946, 18th February 1946, there was a naval revolt, and Royal Indian Navy, the Indian soldiers and commanders within the Navy, they revolted that we are not going to take orders from the British officers anymore. And then that also went into Indian Army and also into Air Force. And remember that scene. Now we know what happened in those days, 18th through 25th February 1946. The naval soldiers and others on the streets were carrying Netaji's photo and singing Kadam Kadam Baraye Jai and INA songs and marching the roads. And if you, and after that event, both Sardar Patel and Nehru both opposed this whole movement because they were waiting for a turn to, win the freedom and become the uh, occupy the seats that otherwise, won't happen that soon. At that time, during that revolt, Britain realized that um, they were not in a position to keep India under their commanders, British commanders, because they are not, Indian soldiers are not taking orders from the British commanders, British auth. And if you look at the diaries and communications between various authorities, whether it's Wavell or some, viceroys and all this. I had a chance to read through many of those, and you can see how nervous, how panicking they were. That okay, let go, let go. We cannot keep India anymore, so let go. So you see that this same Netaji, who may have criticized Hindu Mahasabha and Sama Prasad perhaps, the Sama Prasad who saved West Bengal and Eastern Punjab from going to Pakistan. But later on, he meets Savarkar, he meets Rajbihari Bose. These are Hindu Mahasabha leaders. And then through INA and this influence on the British Indian soldiers to revolt, all this together culminated in a situation that Britain had no power but to leave. But how did they leave? It was not, they did not give us full freedom. It was a negotiated transfer of power, still under the Commonwealth of British, and until 1950, India was not really independent when the Indian Constitution was actually introduced. Anyway, so the last one, that Netaji was a socialist and communist. The truth is, Netaji was a global leader for the well-being of every single Indian, doesn't matter what religion and caste and all this, as well as a well-wisher of the global development. The world should progress, and India should find its own leadership place. So the fact is that he was an ardent follower of Swami Vivekananda, and he was a Hindu spiritual monk. Some people say that he reinitiated the fire of dream for freedom. Uh, 50 years earlier, he said that uh, forget about all gods and goddesses and do worship only one goddess or Devi, that is Bharat Mata, Mother India. So Netaji has been in his letters and writings. You'll find so many mentions that he was truly a follower of Netaji, and he said that if Netaji was alive today, I would sit at his feet and do give my service to the nation. Huh, Netaji was a communist. Anyway, many such myths and surprising unknown facts about Indian history are presented in my book, The Crash of a Civilization. I hope you'll read it to get lot more surprising facts. And today, on the occasion of the 126th birth anniversary of Netaji, I I salute to that great global leader, and we will be inspired, guided by his vision and his work for years to come. And with that, I end today's session. Namaste and thank you. And my website is the authorkanchan.com. If you are interested to get a copy of the book, you can go to online, Amazon or Flipkart or other stores, you'll find it. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much.